Well, thank y'all so much for tuning in for the first Tea Time with Jordan. And we're going to talk a little bit today about home life with the kids at home and how to parent and love your family well during this season of, it's just a strange season. Everybody's kind of put on hold as far as their job or school. And so, how do you keep your sanity? How do you keep your kids from burning the place to the ground? And so who better to talk about those things than the Brooks family? So I'm really excited to have Wesley and Paige, and they were willing to come have some tea with me. And I have some Scottish, Irish background and love afternoon tea, and so they were willing to come have some English tea with me and just talk a little bit about these things. But before we get there, tell us a little bit about what you do, where'd you grow up, those kind of things.
All right, well, Paige and I both grew up in the Waco area, graduated high school together, so we have deep roots here in Waco, lots of family here. I'm a CPA, work in finance. We have 2 children. Josie, our daughter, is 14, our son Caleb is 12.
And I work in pediatric physical therapy, so get to figure out a bunch of little ones.
Wow. And how long have you guys been at Highland?
3 years.
Wow, has it been that long?
Yeah,
3 years
year,
now.
3 years.
But been in Waco for total, I guess, now in a row here.
We were both born at Hillcrest.
So a little while.
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome.
37 of our 39 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I went to A&M.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I was away for a few years.
You forgive her. There's grace. There's grace there for that. Yeah, that's exciting. Well, so what are some of the challenges that people are facing right now with kids being home, with jobs kind of being on hold? Like, what do you think, not just you guys, but some of the things that you're experiencing or things that you've heard from other parents about what families are going through right now?
I think just a lot of uncertainty. Obviously, people don't know how long schools may be out, how long the pandemic will last. So, as we make decisions, are we talking 2 weeks or are we talking, indefinitely? So, and you can see that played out in a lot of ways. I mean, go to H-E-B and, the shelves are empty, there's long lines. There's not a food shortage necessarily, but it's just the kind of the fear and the panic and the uncertainty. So that's kind of the main thing that I hear people talking about. And there's a lot of just conflicting opinions and reports on what facts are or what may or may not happen.
Yeah.
So I think just causing a lot of confusion.
Sure.
And the worry, I see a lot, especially on social media, about homeschooling now.
Yeah.
Like, even though a lot of the schools are going to be providing online curriculum and instruction, there's still this idea of like, oh my goodness, how am I going to enforce this in my house?
Yes.
And I love the joke about, Common Core is going to go out the window and I'm going to teach them how to carry the one.
Yeah.
I thought that was so funny when I saw that the other day. Yeah, just, which I can't handle math, so
sure.
He's going to
let
do
him
that.
handle it.
But
I do that with my wife. She's the mathematician. She's the brainiac, so I'm just like, why don't you just take it all and I'll just cheer you on.
Yeah. So I think there is some nervousness on that side of it. It's just like, how am I going to help my kids, educationally with all of this, and but also even enforcing like schedules and things like that. So.
Well, tell me this, like from your students. Obviously, every student is different. Every family situation is different. But do you feel like they see this as kind of just summer break starting early, or it's like extra vacation right now, and it's not really setting in what's happening as far as like school could, maybe shut down indefinitely, or, do you feel like it's actually kind of been clear what's going on?
I know our daughter, she is enjoying this week as a break, like, because they haven't started putting out school work yet, but she understands, and especially once we kind of got those numbers yesterday that it's now local. It's reality is hitting her. She told me earlier, she's like, I'm really thankful for the last few days, but at the same time, I miss being at school. I miss my teachers. I miss my friends. I miss the routine. Yeah. And she understood. So she's getting it to a point. Sure. Our son, I asked him how he was feeling, and he's like, I don't know. And so we're just like, okay. Yeah. So I think this week they still feel like it's a little bit of a break. We're
Sure.
still having them read. We're still having them like do math. Like their teachers are sending them math games and,
Oh, that's
and things
cool.
like that.
Okay.
But as far as like it is kind of a break. We make them do those things in the summer.
Sure.
So
Just to keep
this-
it fresh on their minds.
this week has seemed a bit more like first week of summer in
Yeah,
a way.
yeah.
So, but all that's going to change.
And the timing was fascinating that it was during spring break is when it kind of blew up. For them, it was spring break. And now with this extra week, it was in some ways kind of fortunate for schools if it doesn't end up taking as long to kind of stamp it down and kind of get it under control. It was fortunate that it happened during spring break because they were already going to be off. But I guess now the break between spring break and summer is so short that it could end up, really messing with the school and the things that they participate in. So, tell me this: how can you as parents, how do you love and lead your family well? I know that's a broad question, but how do you keep your student entertained? How do you allow them that alone time that's, I think, necessary for everyone, but not to just be consumed in it? Like, do you have like a written schedule? Like, what have you guys done at the Brooks house as far as scheduling the day or leading or, just making sure that there's balance in the day and it's not just binge on Netflix or Disney Plus or video games all day?
Yeah, I mean, I think a key part of that is just routine. And, granted, it's only been 3 days, so it kind of still feels like spring break, so we're, hadn't necessarily got into it completely yet. But I think just, like we do in the summertime, kids wake up and they know they're going to, read their Bible, maybe exercise, do chores, have their reading time before, TV comes on, or they turn on a video game or whatever it may be, and just get in their routine where you don't really have to reiterate it every day. They're just used to it, and it just becomes second nature. And I think too, they know that if they do those things, they know that later in the day, then we're going to have some free time, but we have to take care of the priorities first.
Yeah.
Would you add anything to that?
I just feel like we're going to just kind of revert back to some of the way we function in the summer.
Yeah.
But we'll start adding in the schoolwork into that priority time in the morning.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of that. They get up, they know this is what I need to do before I can have me time or just free time.
Sure. Now, again, every situation is different. Every parent is different, and family situation is different, and especially students are so unique. But what would you say to a parent that might, in the summer, it might be binge on whatever you want to binge on, as long as it's legal, and they just, that's what they do for the summer, and they're just not, like, this is kind of out of the blue for them. It doesn't have to be a long treatise, but what advice would you give a parent that does that?
Well, I understand that because honestly, that would be my natural bent to do that. Like,
Sure.
I love just relaxing and I love free time, and so I get it. I really do. He's more disciplined and is much more like, he really sets his routine, and so it's understandable. But at the same time, it's not the best for our kids.
Yeah.
Just to turn them loose and let them go. We still are called to be parents. We're still called to be their leaders and their shepherds, and that doesn't, summertime or breaks, it doesn't mean they get to just waste time and shut down completely. We're still called to cultivate and grow our children.
Sure.
Shepherd them.
I think too, we found a lot of times, and so our daughter's a little more like me, kind of structured discipline. My son's a little more like Paige, in that he just likes his free time.
Yeah.
But we have found that, while we encourage them to follow, read or exercise, do these things, there's a little initial pushback, but after he's done it a while, he's like, oh, I feel better. I'm glad that you had me do this. So you kind of sometimes have to push through maybe a little bit of the initial pushback.
Yeah.
Like lately for our son, he hasn't maybe been as consistent as quiet time.
Yeah.
And so the longer you let him, we don't like, every day, not on top of him, we'd expect him to do it, but we noticed over time he hadn't really been consistent. And then so we kind of addressed it, and now that he's gotten more into a routine of it, I mean, he likes it and values it. And that's not to say, I mean, there's going to be seasons, you know, where he's going to, it's hard, just like for us, things are harder to do certain times.
Phases and
exactly. But just being consistent, I think, you know, giving them space to make decisions with appropriate parameters, and each kid is going to be a little different in that too. You can give some kids, you can give a little more space, and others you kind of have to be a little more tired.
We can generally just kind of, Josie just does what she knows she needs to do, and we don't have to stay on her. But I think in that, giving them the freedom to make choices, we give them the choices. Like, here's 3 options. You know, you can do it in whatever order you want, but these things need to get done. And so letting them figure out what's priority, you know, kind of just giving them some freedom and autonomy.
So they can own it.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. So obviously, they're not only not allowed to go to school right now or really participate in any large mass groupings, but it also includes the regular gathering of your local church, and which just happens to be Highland Baptist. But how have you guys continued to be the church? How have y'all continued to do church together, even though you haven't? I know it's only been a short amount of time, but I'm assuming, knowing you guys and knowing your heart for the church, how have you guys continued that forward in these past few days?
It's been hard. Like, we miss everybody so much, and Josie's been feeling it big time, just missing the youth group and stuff. And but we're trying to stay connected with all the leadership through all the emails and the videos they're putting out and social media announcements. But we watch the live stream as a family. And
you do that in your living room, or everybody piles into the bed, or like, how do y'all do that?
We have we hook up the computer to the TV, and so we're in the living room. And
that's awesome.
And we try to push through the awkwardness of singing.
Okay, so you guys are singing in your living room, because when I do that, my 2 children just sit there and listen, and my wife kind of is awkwardly just observing what's happening, and none of them sing except for me. What benefits do you find in that, in having to do that, kind of cut through the awkwardness of just being in that small setting where people can hear you and it's kind of raw and almost a little bit uncomfortable, maybe really uncomfortable to sing together? What benefits do you see in that?
Well, one, I think just the importance of showing us that, you know, church doesn't just happen in a building. That you can worship the Lord in a variety of contexts. There's a lot of places around the world where people can't worship together. You know, they have to worship at home. And so I think that's one benefit, is that we're able to do those things in different places and see that God transcends a building. And I think also just kind of, getting over, like we talk about the awkwardness, we laugh about singing, but you know, I think if that's a deterrent, you know, for worship, then, you know, you're a little too stuck on yourself, right?
Wow.
You need to focus on the Lord and, you know, make a joyful noise. You know, it's joyful to Him, even if it's not so much to us.
Yeah, that's good. What a cool discipleship moment for students too, to see, okay, this isn't a performance, and I don't just worship with 1,000 people at once. That's special when it happens, but God is just as glorified by the 4 of you on Sunday morning as He would have been with 3,000 meeting at whatever church that you go to. And so that's such a special thing that you guys get to experience, and it's tough. I know that it's tough, and I think that's good for other people to hear that too, that they're not alone in that. So back then, to the original question, that's how you're kind of doing church gathering, but how are you continuing to be the church, kind of on a more service, missional level?
Well, Highlands provided a really great opportunity this week, and I think some next week too, just partnering with Waco ISD and being a distribution site for children to come get breakfast and come get lunch, because for some of those kiddos, that's the only meal they get during the day, and that's at school. If they can't go to school, then they may not get fed. So that was a great conversation that I got to have with our kids. The first day that we were headed up there, our son was like, "This is right in the middle of lunch. What if I get hungry?"
Yeah.
And so I was able to kind of like, "Well, hey, that's great. Let's talk about this. Let's." we're serving, let's think about, like, as you get hungry, I want that hunger to remind you that, okay, some of these kids, this is the only meal they're going to get today.
Wow.
And so instead of focusing on your hunger and like, when am I going to get to eat, let's pray for them. Just pray for them in your head. Like, every time you start to get a hunger pain, pray for them. So it's, in a way, it was kind of like a little fast, you know. So I think that was a good reminder for them, and some eye-opening moments for them.
Wow. Well, what other encouragements would you leave, before we're done here with tea time? But what other things might you leave with other families or parents from Highland who are kind of going through this and wondering what other parents are wrestling with? What encouragement, what wisdom, and really maybe just for me, what do I need to glean from you guys, from your well of wisdom on how to handle the next few weeks of this?
I don't know. For me, I mean, one thing is just to remember you're not alone. I mean, of course, God is always with us, and we're always in His presence. But also, we're all going through this, and so fortunately through social media or texting, try to maybe kind of stay in contact with maybe your life group or some of your close friends, just to encourage one another. I think is important.
For adults, keeping that contact with friends and especially other believers that you can call, like, hey, I need some ideas here.
Yeah.
Like this, we're running into this. I'm butting heads with this child in my home, and can you give me a fresh perspective on this? Or had a great conversation this week with another mom while we were serving together, and she was sharing with me how she helps to cultivate gratitude in her children, and that was so encouraging to me. And like, that was probably one of the most encouraging things for me this week, was just to get to talk to her about that. And that came just as part of normal conversation while we were serving together. And so being in contact with other adults who understand, who are going through the same thing, but also showing yourself grace. This is new and hard for everybody, and so we don't have to have a Pinterest perfect home. Every day.
And
I guarantee
Pinterest is
you,
never as perfect as the picture.
No.
Like, if I turned this camera
Never.
around, you would see I have a pile of dishes in my sink right now,
Yes.
which is a terrible witness.
I mean,
but I do.
Our house is
I
the
do.
same, and
Yeah.
so please, anything that we've said, please don't think at all that we have this figured out and that we execute it perfectly. There are plenty of days it is not executed well, that we're all four of us in our house are short with each other, and that we get frustrated. But the Lord is good, and that He's faithful to us, and He provides, and His Holy Spirit will provide everything we need that day, for emotionally, spiritually, and so just pressing into that and understanding that it's not going to look just right every day, but also listen to your kids. Like, ask them questions and really listen to their answers. Try to ask them how they're feeling about things, and if they can't really verbalize how they're feeling, try to ask more questions to help find the root of it, and then guiding them and helping them understand, like, okay, your emotions are real. God gave us emotions. But let's talk about, like, are these emotions telling you the truth or not, and that we are not going to be slaves to those, like, negative emotions, and so trying to just encourage each other all the time in that, but listening to your kids and really hearing their hearts and finding the roots of their words, of their frustrations, because everyone's going to get frustrated. Questioning and examining your own heart when you're frustrated. Like, am I frustrated because I'm being inconvenienced because I'm trying to do work from home and they need this and this one needs that, and then these two are fighting? Am I frustrated because it's inconvenient, or am I frustrated about something else, and am I taking it out on them, or kind of just slowing down and really just thinking through things and examining our hearts and our children's hearts. Showing our children that they can trust us with their hearts, that they can trust us to listen to them and to support them and encourage them, but also to hold them accountable and to provide structure and to provide consistency and discipline when it needs to be done. I think all of those things, when the Holy Spirit especially is involved in helping us, then all of those things can be used to show love and provide, they'll trust us. They will grow in their trust when we can demonstrate those things.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, y'all, thank y'all so much for coming in and coming to my home and Cloroxing your feet before you walked in and all those kind of things. And I promise I've got some hand sanitizer for you when you leave and an extra roll of toilet paper if you need it. And so you guys have been great. Thank y'all for your wisdom. I'm so grateful for your lives, for your ministry to me and so many of our students, and just really, really excited that I get to do ministry and life with people like the Brooks. So thank y'all for tuning in, and keep your eyes open for more to come. How are you guys continuing to be the church and just do church? What does that look like at the Brooks house?
We're gonna ask that again.
Got cut. So, because it would be weird to like have your answer,
So
and then we
go-
cut it off as if you said something wrong.
Like change shirts and then come back. Yes. Yeah. We switched coffee cups. Wait, that's got COVID clean it all.